welcome everybody. I'd like to bring the meeting to order and ask that roll be called, please, Renata.
Here. Bozeman.
Here.
Disharum.
Here.
Posthauser. Here. Humble.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Fallon.
Here.
Thank you. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to the public participation portion of the meeting. Is there anybody who wishes to address the board? Okay. Before addressing the board, I would like to remind you of our process. Per Board Policy 2230, we ask that when addressing the board, please identify yourself and be brief. Comments should be limited to 5 minutes. The speaker is asked to please conduct oneself with respect and civility towards others. Individuals less than 18 years of age are permitted to address the board if accompanied by his or her parent or guardian. The board typically does not engage in two-way conversations during the public portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response will be addressed by the administration at a later date. To be respectful of others and to protect confidentiality, complaints against individual students, staff, board members, either named or unnamed, shall not be orally presented to the Board of Education. Such complaints shall be put in writing, signed by the person or persons making the charges, and delivered to the Board of Education secretary. Okay, so you're already, if you could just please come to the podium, begin by speaking into the microphone and state your name and the topic that you will be addressing, please.
Good evening. My name is Will Shufflevine, and I will be speaking on the matter of board conduct. I'm sure you all remember me from a couple weeks ago. I'm now since on winter break from my university, and I wanted to address a concern I had regarding an email I sent a couple weeks ago, and I received responses from Cheryl, Karen, and Abby, and an email. And I received in-person responses from Teresa and Dawn, and I do have yet to receive responses from the rest of the board. And I do want to point out that per the regional offices of the superintendent, you may be removed from your position for dereliction, which is the failure to fulfill one's obligations. It is your responsibility to respond to your constituents. I expect a response from the rest of you soon. And I did not think I would be standing here again watching the board meetings thinking that this was still going on in the district after I have seen a lot of the articles in the news. So first off, I wanted to talk to the community. I want to commend the community for getting involved in district matters. I could not reiterate enough that you are the board's accountability partners. Second, I want to welcome the parents that may have differing opinions on the subject matter of district conduct, as well as the mutual separation agreement. We have heard many of the same opinions and testimonies, and I think it would be beneficial to hear a different side. This is so our district can grow and thrive in the face of adversity. Parents and community members should not hide behind a Facebook post because you have a differing opinion. Say it to everyone. Parents or community members that may have legitimate knowledge of board conduct, board neglect, regardless of personal or political ties, should step forward. At this point, I think we need to be having a different conversation. The board has made their decision and we need to move forward from it. The district is in a position to see enrollment increase slightly next year, and with the recent events, I'm not sure. You all were very quick in the search to find a new individual to fill Lisa's shoes. Have you considered my recommendation to pursue ethics and conflict of interest training? You may not have broken any laws or performed illegally, but any lawyer could tell you that basic ethics have walked on thin lines with this board. I was able to come to this meeting because I took all of my finals a week early, because my professors thought that it was important enough for me to come to this. I explained what was going on, and this may be a teachable moment for students in the classroom. Even teachers at another institution that have zero ties to Dunlap think what's going on here is important. I hope you all know that what is going on here is important. As a community, we don't know what goes on in your homes, we don't know what goes on in your offices, and we don't know what goes on at other school districts you may have been a part of. We do know what is going on right here. I don't know if there is anything more the community could say. We have given emotions, stories, and actions, and still we have seen no remorse for decisions made or how to further the board's reputation in the community. We do not know if the decision regarding Lisa Parker was yours or hers, but we can move past that as a district. Your conduct and personal involvement is something we cannot look past, and I don't know if it is something you can either. In closing, I have an exercise for all of you to perform in your next closed session. I want you all to write down as many teachers as you can in the district. If you cannot write down every single one of them, then you have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mary Nelson. I live in the district. I graduated from Dunlap High School, and I taught middle school in this district for 26 years. I want to talk about the importance of teacher teams at the middle school level, but before I do, I want to quickly mention Amy Stefanski, the librarian at the high and middle schools. She spent her weekend at Barnes & Noble and also spent a day there earlier this fall. Why? To raise money for the libraries at DHS, DMS, and DVMS. I'm impressed with Amy's dedication, yet I have to question the need for all this fundraising. Let's not forget the time and energy she devotes during book fair time in each school. In a time when the school board can pay to add lacrosse and pay a search team to find a superintendent when we already had one, I am appalled that a faculty member must spend her own time away from her own family to fundraise in order to have decent libraries for our students. Now back to the importance of teams at the middle school level. When I listened to the board discuss building onto DVMS, it was clear to me that some board members do not really understand the team concept and the importance of that concept. Dunlap instituted the team concept at Pioneer Junior High in the early 1990s. In the years that I taught 7th and 8th grade level, 1991 to 2017, I was not always on team. In fact, I was not usually on team. For a few years, due to budget reductions, only 6th grade kept team time, but 7th and 8th grade lost theirs. In 2015-2016, 8th grade got the team time back. If there are enough students, each grade level could have 2 teams. 6th grade currently does at Dunlap Middle. Having team time means that teachers have a designated time each day to meet. During this time, the students usually have classes like PE or exploratory classes, and these teachers do not meet with the team. In 7th and 8th grade at Dunlap Middle, there are too many students for one team, and the district has not funded a second team, so several core teachers are not on team. While some teachers on a team is better than no team at all, having several teachers not on team is not the best practice. According to the National Middle School Association research, common planning time is mandatory for success for middle school teams. It provides teachers the time to plan and coordinate team activities such as homework, tests, projects, and special activities. According to a study conducted by Flowers, Mertens, and Mulhall, they found 5 outcomes for interdisciplinary teaming. They are: common planning is a critical component, teaming improves school work climate, teaming increases parent contact, teaming increases job satisfaction among teachers, and teaming has a positive impact on student achievement. By having a team, students feel more of a sense of community, a school within a school type of atmosphere. Researchers have linked positive outcomes to smaller teams. One study done by Erb and Stevenson found that teams of 120 or fewer students with a ratio of no more than 25 students to one teacher shows that teachers are able to engage in instructional practices that are linked to positive student outcomes. Over the years that I taught middle school in Dunlap, I saw that to be absolutely true. When teams are used at the middle school level, the students feel more attached and the teachers are able to get to know the students at a deeper level. When teachers have the opportunity for daily planning time, the students are better served. When given this time, the teachers are able to discuss students and plan together to better meet the needs of each student. Less students fall through the cracks, so to speak, because teachers have time to focus on those students. The teachers have time to plan special activities which help the students feel a part of the school. I also noticed that discipline is better when teachers are allowed team time. I believe that when teachers have this daily time to collaborate with fellow teachers, the students only benefit. They know the teachers are working together to make the school a better place to learn and grow. So what I ask you is that when you plan for an addition to Dunlap Valley, you keep the importance of team time in mind. The way Valley is built truly lends itself to teams. Keep this style as you expand the building. DMS, not so great, but the wonderful faculty makes it work. I ask you to make sure these teachers do not lose team time, and I also ask that you look at DMS schedule and try to expand the teams at the 7th and 8th grade levels. These grades are both large enough for 2 teams per level. Please heed the advice of the experts that work in the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name's Amanda Tomlin. I'm going to talk to you about how I feel as a parent in the district. I am a lifetime resident with 5 children in this district. As much as I would like to sit here and discuss our outstanding superintendent and assistant superintendent, I feel that we must move forward and focus all of our attention on you, the board members. It is obvious by your actions as board members that you are not listening. You have no intentions of taking our feelings, our suggestions into consideration. We are now in search of a superintendent, assistant superintendent, and a director of technology. I cannot even imagine what it will cost to replace all of these positions. And who is to say more staff isn't going to quit? Making rushed decisions that are not in the best interest for our district, can you honestly sit there and say that you are all making the right decisions for our children, for our district? Let me remind you, you took an oath, every one of you. I shall respect taxpayers' interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. Are you doing that? Teamwork, collaboration, and shared leadership skills are crucial qualities that you, the board members, all need to possess. You must start working as a team to do what is best for our district. Our students, staff, and taxpayers deserve nothing but the best. Our voices have gone unheard long enough. You represent we the people, not yourselves. I am asking you to come together to work as a team, not with just yourselves, but with all of us, the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us all the time to speak tonight. My name is Amy Weaver, and I have freshman twins here at DHS. I'm a local business owner and have served on the PTO boards for the past 8 years as president, vice president, or secretary at both Banner and DMS. And I currently sit on the board of directors for the Dunlap School Foundation. So as you can see, I am well invested in this district. How did we get here, and why did we get here? I have nothing when I am asked to explain the turmoil going on, as the facts presented do not warrant such a bad situation. There are 4 facts to the separation that don't help or offer us belief to what has occurred. A board vote of 4-3 on such a major and impactful decision does not sit well with us. Number 2, our district has excelled in academics, rankings, and athletics. You cannot fix what wasn't broken. A hire of a Chicago attorney, again, a 4-3 vote. And why? Where was our attorney, and why did he not want to get involved? Number 4, as a business owner, if I had to let an employee go, then that means there was poor work performance, and we have not seen that with Dr. Parker. So see, there are two options out there that could have called for this separation, and neither makes some of you board members look very good. Option A, and which is by far by the popular vote, is that there is no true credit or work performance facts to warrant this separation, and that this is a personal issue and disagreement. We can all agree that no one is perfect, and trust me, there is plenty of dirt coming out as this circus continues, but you don't see others pointing fingers. Option B, there is credit to the separation and facts to prove that this was in the best interest of the district. If this is the case, then you have allowed for 45 additional days the opportunity for there to be more harm to our children, our district, and our community. So you see, without answers and explanations, both options are not good. And this is why you have lost the trust and the respect of this community. In our district, top academics and athletic performance is expected from our children, and yet you have just taken their top leader away from them. We expect nothing but the best in Dr. Parker's replacement. We expect all qualities to be top-notch and for them to go above and beyond with our students as Dr. Parker has. This brings up the questionnaire sent out last week and why only some of us received it. And then when they asked us to pick 5 qualities from the 10 offered, they forgot option 11, and that was A, all of the above. That is what we want in our next leader, just the way we had it. I hope that for the sake of this district that the board can start to act in our best interest, because somewhere along the line, our greatest assets, our children, have been forgotten. You have shown us that the community has no voice, and since you 7 will be the only voices heard on such impactful decisions, then we expect you to remember those campaign promises you made to us when pleading for our votes. You promised to act in the best interest of our children, our community, and our district of amazing teachers and staff. And what we have seen from you is the best interest of your 3 priorities: personal, friends, and family. Not acceptable. Because you hold the future of our children in your votes, then we expect all 7 of you to have voices and to be heard. We are tired of watching the disrespectful eye rolls as one speaks and the laughing at the other board members. We are tired of the board members speaking up and asking very good questions, but they get ignored and disrespected. If an action is questioned or a vote asked for, then all 7 of you should proceed with a decision and just not one. We ask that the biased feelings and the borderline unethical business stop. We expect from you a class act board and not this shameful mess we are watching. So while we all hope for a mending board, please know that the damage has been done in this community by you, and you will never again poorly represent us, as we will all remember this at re-election time. Board members Bozeman, Bluth, and Halsasser, thank you for doing what you promised to do for us. And that was to represent us well and to protect our children. Have any of you ever watched the video of the night of the vote so that you could all see what we saw? We saw 3 passionate board members fighting for Dr. Parker. We saw 6 confident board members cast their vote that night, and then there was that 7th. That 7th had very little eye contact that night, was visibly upset, and stated their vote with a shaken voice. Those actions make us feel that as if their vote was not made by facts or what their gut was telling them, but rather by the persuasion of others. Who would have thought that that one night has affected us in all so many ways? That one night took our outstanding district to a laughingstock. That one night made a solid district a divided one. That one night let us know that we the people are not being protected and being served as you promised us. That one night has left our children upset and with questions that no one will answer. That one night has cost us, literally, the taxpayers, not 1, but 2 outstanding key role models in this district. I can tell you that Karen Beverland's Once for Our Children's were as amazing as Dr. Parker's. Not only did she want the best opportunities for our children, but for all to be treated equal and for no one to ever feel disadvantaged or to be left out or left behind. She was the only good thing that many of us saw during this mess, knowing that she was still there to get us through this, and now you have taken her away from us too. So we thank you for a wonderful holiday season, for allowing our children to head into finals and break with no turmoil or uncertainty of what to expect when they return after the holidays. But most importantly, for showing us your true colors and making the next re-election decisions so easy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. This concludes the public participation portion, unless there's anybody else. Okay.
I normally don't come up here planned ahead of time, but I would just like to say a few things. It's obvious that we are in a bad state right now, and I would like to challenge you guys with a few things that I have learned by being a leader. First, ask yourselves why you are here. Are you here for the right reasons? Because I have seen at least 2 of you not even take notes during the public participation so far. Ask yourselves, are you a leader? Is this what leadership looks like? And learn from each other. Work together. Treat each other with respect. It's the basis of leadership, and there are plenty of good leaders on this board. But use those skills wisely. As we are in a bad state right now, try to get through it by working together and treating each other with respect for the sake of the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else who wishes to provide public testimony? Okay. Then that concludes the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move into our information discussion items. We have a presentation by Tom Leahy, the consultant for the Illinois Association of School Boards, about the online survey results for the Interim Superintendent Search, and also a discussion of staff and community involvement in that process.
Let's hear it from Marcus, who set all the sound up. Marcus. As Mrs. Disharoon mentioned, my name is Tom Leahy, and I'm with the Illinois Association of School Boards, and we conduct searches for administrators across the state. I've been doing this 10 years, and I've facilitated personally over 120 during that period of time. So what I would like to do first is to present information to you in 2 ways about the online survey that was conducted. This particular survey is conducted in most all of the searches throughout the state of Illinois when we do superintendent searches. Not exactly like you saw, but very similar. We asked purposely for 4 different groups. The board, the staff, the students were separate, and the community and parents to offer input on a certain number of items and a certain portion of those. And then we get a cross-section across the board of all of those. What I'd like to share with you is that we had 970 responses. I'll tell you the details of those individual groups in just a bit. But I want to tell you that that's a really good response. And a lot of it is still an echo from support for Lisa Parker. And I'll share that with you because that is a main string throughout this. So bear with me a second. I'll catch my breath almost here. I'm not out of shape, Marcus. So I'll get my summary of the survey first by the online piece where you put numbers down on the 10 items. And then I happen to have open comments by all stakeholders of 30 pages, which is considerable. And I have read it thoroughly, twice, more than that actually, and reviewed what needs to be told to the Board of Education and the community and parents and staff about the common strings there. So, hold on one second. Before I move to that, and if Renata, you would, do you mind passing these to them, please? What I want to share with you is that you did approve us to do the interim search on December 2nd. You took final action to do that. We've had in place the online survey since the 4th to the 9th, and then this evening on the 11th, of course, the schedule on the tentative timeline is for me to present information about the online survey, give you an update of the interim search process in open session, and then also I will present candidates for consideration of the interim piece in closed session with the board as well. I have in hand, which I had the other day as well, 5 individuals who have expressed interest. We keep a database of 100 plus people who want to be interim superintendents throughout the state. All 5 of these are retired superintendents who have been doing this for quite some time, and some of them have conducted a few interims as well. So we will identify with the board will identify candidates for interviews. There will be interviews in the near future which students, staff, community members, parents, and board will all be involved in, not just board. And we have a plan for that, and we'll put together that particular process as we move forward. There will be a decision this evening as to when that's going to be, and that will be decided and closed as well, since it's an interview piece and the employment of personnel. So now, any extra I should also mention that I've had quite a little bit of contact with Renata, and like Marcus, and probably more sorry Marcus than you, she needs a round of applause as well. Sorry, Renata, sorry. She is what we call in our work the hub of the wheel, if you will, because she tries to keep everyone in the right direction. Now, what I want to share with you is this. We have a cross-section of the surveys themselves, and by the way, to the media and to the community and parents, staff, whatever, these are being presented in open session and are available for your inspection at the request of you from your board, so know that. So with that being said, the board has identified their top 5, if you will, characteristics that you're looking for in a new superintendent. The staff has identified their top 5. Students have also identified their top 5, and parents and community members their top 5. The board of 7 did this in their own piece. Staff had 261 individuals fill out the survey and submit comments. The students had 52 individuals fill out the survey. I think we limited it to high school possibly. Did we have some just high school only? Yeah. We talked about some middle school at one point, but decided by the administrative team there, I think we just decided to stay with high school. So parents and community members, you had, can't add correctly, 650 or so. Yep, 650 individuals who actually filled it out from the parents and community. In the top 5 of all groups was number 1, acts with integrity, fairness, and ethical manner. Number 5 was next, and that is promotes the success of every student by facilitating the development of articulation, implementation, stewardship of the vision of learning that is shared by all stakeholders. Actually, those were reversed, but that's the 2 top ones for all groups. Top 5 of 3 groups was advocates, nurtures, and sustains the school culture and instructional program conducive to the learning and staff professional growth. Next one was ensures the management of the organization, operation, and resources for a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment. Finally, collaborates with faculty and community members, responds to diverse community interests and needs, and mobilizes community resources. With that being said, you had an opportunity to give your importance level to having previous teaching and administrative experience. With the number that said yes, that should be required. Previous superintendent experience with the number that said yes or no, that should be preferred. We say required. We need someone who doesn't have to learn to become a superintendent to be an interim superintendent. He agrees. Previous interim superintendent experience. Some preferred it, others are mixed. So whether they've had previous interim superintendent piece, and most of these that I have this evening have, doesn't mean they can't be a quality superintendent, because these have been where they've worked before. No.
Tom, while she's handing that out,
Please.
Just a follow-up question. Do you know how many surveys overall were sent out? We know how many responded?
No, because it's at-will access. The surveys go out on a link that is shared throughout the district, through the community. We also did it with the media. We wouldn't have any way of knowing.
Okay.
It depends on who looks at it and who accesses it.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
they're online, all of them online. Okay. Okay, so finally, and I'm going to talk a bit about the interview piece in just a second, but finally what I want to do is let you know the items that I have on the bulleted sheet that are the top strings of commonalities, if you will, of the comments in the document. The document, in all fairness, I want to share with you that there were only a few items that I removed. And only ones that named people as a recommendation. That person should be the next one, or that person should not be the next one. It's our opinion that it's a violation of confidentiality if we put forward some information about people who don't know they're even in the mix or not. So we're very careful about that. But there were only a few of those. So our online survey results, it's 30 pages, but it went from almost a full 30 back to just a 29 and a half or something like that. But these are in order of most mentioned. First, board vote 7-0 on interim superintendent and permanent superintendent positions. Second, involves stakeholders. Next, there were many comments in support of Lisa Parker, or reinstate her, or find someone like her. Next, the need to rebuild trust. Next, related to that, need an interim who can build trust, has a calming effect, unifies this board, who is open, honest, and steady-handed. Next, consider public participation. Next is, who is hired has no ties. And that meant various ways. It meant whether it be a board member ties or even staff or community member ties. I mean, it had some things in it about that. Next, and you're going to hear diverse views. The young man who talked about views, they're here. Hire from within or internal. I will tell you that you know, and you may know, and you guys recall, and I'm not talking to you guys, but I'll have time to do that in a bit more. But we opened it, the district opened it to all internal candidates who were qualified. And no one came forward for the interim piece. No one came to me with that process. So with that being said, that one said hire from within or internal. The next one says hire from outside. So differing opinion. Need an interim who is student-centered and holds integrity. Next, keep staff, students, community involved. There was a thread of thanks for the opportunity to give input. And not unlike what you've heard this evening, there was finally several questions and comments about the need to have assistance or not from us doing the search and related costs. We understand. So with that being said, these are the common strings. I'm going to hand the board next the online comments, all of them, that they can review. There is not a possibility of attempting, other than that, to go through any way of reviewing it this evening, or we'll be here till tomorrow night, maybe. Maybe not done by then. So this document is the 30 pages of the actual online comments that we could, in fact, leave in. Very few redactions, very few things taken out. And it's important for you to know that, in our view, 3 things occur. One is that the community and staff and students have had an opportunity to air their views to the board. They are hearing it from us as well, and that's here. The second reason to use this particular document would be to help the board to develop the interview questions of the candidates. And we're talking interim piece only, of course. The next is for whoever the interim person is can read this document and get a feel for what's going on right now. And that's important for them to be aware of the needs that you have. So before I move into then a couple of other things having to do with the process from the board, any questions now? You okay?
Yeah, I just had a comment.
Please.
You know, I see here that, you know, some of the comments were to look within internally. You know, and I know I made some comments prior at meetings, even before you, Tom, were involved.
That's right.
Just that in a decision like this, I think that, you know, it would have been prudent for the board to go into closed session and have a discussion on some of the possibilities of internal candidates. Okay. I knew that it would be difficult to get people to come forward, you know, so the comment as far as no one coming forward, no one putting in their application, and I'm pretty sure I voiced that multiple times to the board about the necessity for us as a board to come together,
right,
to have a conversation. We knew the individuals that were qualified, and we could have come together and tried to at least have a discussion based on those qualifications and to see if the board could agree unanimously on 1 or 2 candidates, people that we knew in the district already, that could be a bridge builder, that were familiar with the district. And at that point, we could have taken it upon ourselves to not have all these additional meetings and to put that person in place at least as an interim in order to guide the ship through these waters of disruption that the board has created. I think that would have been necessary if the board had any intention on making an internal decision. I don't know. I didn't hear any feedback. I don't think we got any traction with that. I don't know if board members were just not interested or if they really were expecting people to come forward. But this is not a surprise to me that we didn't have people put their name in as applicants. I think if we had chosen to go to 1 or 2 individuals and say, would you be willing to step forward? Then they could deny or turn it away. But to think that they were going to come forward after everything that has happened and the major disruption to this district, I don't think that was plausible. And I don't know why we would expect anyone to come forward at that point.
Right. In reflection on that, Ms. Bozeman, I can remember the conversation being held as to what our involvement would be, and that the decision as a group was to have us be the clearinghouse for people to contact my number and my email. I mean, that's what really took place. And you were very clear about it then, and you're being very clear now. So other thoughts, or I'm not trying to run your meeting, we're having discussion here, and that's great. So other questions about anything so far? And
Can I follow up on that? Because I don't know if that ship's already sailed or not, and if we can discuss that in open session, Tom, you can direct us on that. I'm just wondering with the news that our assistant superintendent will be resigning soon.
Let me
could she
give you some information further about what I know of these candidates and these individuals. I was aware of that from the news as well. Last Friday, I think I had a call from the newspaper wanting to know if I knew that, and I did then. And I had no information about it then. But my point is, if I may, can you keep that thought and don't let me forget to respond if I don't in this version. I want to shift first, though. I have to stay on track or I lose my place.
Okay. I'll remember.
Okay, I know you will. I want to talk first about the process of if you do choose to move forward and move into the situation of interviewing these candidates, that there is in place, and we've asked board members to come with names of people that they would like to see on a committee to be involved with us in meet the candidates and interview them. We know that the Board of Education would interview candidates in closed session privately with your 7, and you may have other staff involved perhaps in that. If you choose to do that, that's fine. All board members and all other staff would be, of course, would have to abide by the confidentiality of closed session, which you know. The other piece of it is, and I just had a conversation with 2 nice young ladies, one sitting right here and one right here, before this meeting about how would they be involved in the union leadership to help find people in the staff and such, not only just union members of the teaching staff, but also members in the staff from other entities like transportation, food service, support staff, all the custodial, janitorial, to have a good representation of community, parents, and staff. And that group would combine together and be with me in a facilitated group to interview these candidates one at a time. And while at the end you would fill out a rubric response of your opinion of their potential for success. We then compile all of that information of all candidates, and it kind of comes out like a scattergram in the sense that it shows who's the strength, who's not, the strongest down to not so strong. And that opinion then is delivered after I compile it to the board the same evening that they're doing interviews as well. So if you started at, let's just give a time, if you started at 10 a.m. at a time, and you had a group with me the half hour prior to that to give instruction on what you can and can't ask due to law, and also protocol that we'd follow during that process. First candidate would come in at 10 o'clock, and you would have about a 45-minute period to ask questions of them. I then facilitate the next group at 11, while that first candidate goes to the board at 11. Then it just continues to stair-step through until it's complete. The community and staff and all of that would end an hour prior to the board finishing, and I'd have time to compile the results and take it to them. So that's how that functions. I'm very careful to make sure that it's facilitated properly with protocol, legalities, and we try to treat all candidates very similar in most of the same questions. So I, in fact, even record by hand the questions that were asked and who did it, who asked them. You may wonder how I could, with 40 or 50 people, do that in a room. You'll stay seated in the same place, and when we get started, I number you. I don't know who you are, your name, or anything else, and we don't go to that. And there's no identification of who asked questions to the board either. It's all very clear, and it's something that we've done often, and it has been accepted well. It just works. So does that explain the process as we know it and do? Questions from, and does that, I didn't quite go yet to what you're going to ask.
No,
but I'll
and
go there in a
we
minute.
can come back to that
Well,
question, but with the process that you were just speaking to.
Yes.
The selection process for those people for the focus group.
Right.
I know you mentioned, that we could come up with some names, to provide to you.
Right.
But I was thinking it might, and I mean, we're time sensitive, but it seems to me that we should go to these groups like the DEA or,
Yes.
and they can facilitate giving us the representatives that they.
That's right, and that's what we talked about
Okay.
earlier. They
And that
will,
would be pretty
they
fast,
will
I think.
assist, yes, but very fast, because I think it's fair to say that we want representation from parents and community to be an equal number as you have staff.
Right. I guess I just have some concerns
And-
that board members are making the selection. I
Well,
just don't feel like that's very democratic.
However,
Yeah, just wanted your thoughts on that.
yeah,
because
I
know you've
think
done
that
this before.
it's typically the case that board members do make suggestions, and what you'll do is come with names, and there will be probably some duplications. If we have 20 or so from this group, then there needs to be about 20 from the staff. And I think we work through that together. Now, I have in the past had a situation where we've opened it wide open. And it's very difficult to do, and there's no direction in that, and then we won't know how many. And we won't know that even if we had the right representation, that's the key.
Right.
So
and
you want leaders of your community, PTO
Yes.
leaders as well, and you guys know them.
Exactly. the
Athletic Boosters,
foundation.
Fine Arts Foundation, all groups
Music
who are
boosters.
support, right, all,
I guess my concern is if we just select 4 and there's of us, that's 28, and maybe they aren't necessarily, maybe we could discuss so that we are getting, like
Yes.
a PTO president from each building, administrator from each building,
Right.
some
Well,
from-
and my view of all of this is that when we go to close and you see candidates, then you guys talk with me about who you've brought forward in that sense, and then I communicate with these guys, maybe through help, Renata, and we coordinate it together, and we make sure that we have those who should be asked. Now, with this time of year especially, not all of them will be able to come. So does that help with that piece?
Yes, and
It's
as-
if
as
this
we
is a
move-
work in progress a
Right,
little bit.
exactly, and that's why while we're on that topic, I just want to throw out the idea that, Renata, I'm sure would be more than willing to send out an email tomorrow to the DEA presidents, the PTO presidents, the head of the athletic booster, the head of the band music booster, and say who is, 1 or 2 people, and then.
Will that
I don't know.
satisfy the need of what you guys think? And if not, you can tell us, which I assume you will tell us. That's okay. Well, and we'll work through it with Renata, your help again. So,
Okay,
right.
just an idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was just gonna piggyback off of that. That's exactly what we did the last time.
Okay.
And the last time we made sure every building representative, the
Right.
principals, the DEA, the athletic director, somebody from the transportation department, food service, all the heads of every department came up with individuals
Okay.
that they knew would represent those groups. And that's how we came. I don't remember the board. Beth, maybe you were there. I don't know if you recall, but I don't think the board
would by
gave
themselves
numbers,
have to
names
have,
at all.
okay, well, however that needs to work, we can facilitate whatever.
Yeah.
One thing I'll mention to you is when we have community and staff, normally board members are not present during that session for a reason. And administrators generally are not either. They can be, but you may have some representation separate from that with that group. And we can even help with that by having maybe some administrators greeting the candidates when they come in. I mean, there's some options here that could move forward with that. So I think we'll just work through this
Yeah.
as we go forward.
Yeah, I just thought while we're
Uh-huh.
moving,
Okay.
trying to keep on topic. The other thing that I did bring up that goes back around was just because Mrs. Beverlin has
Right.
indicated that she's resigning, she would be a person that perhaps could reach out to some of those internal candidates. I think there was a little hesitation at the last meeting because we wanted everyone to have an opportunity to apply. And
Right.
at this point, they haven't, but maybe if they were.
Well, here's a suggestion at this point in where we are today. Let's not forget that, because that is still an option for this board to choose to do. But let's look and see who you have in place on the packets that I have now for sure. I want to be able to come to you and tell you who they are this time, which last time I had them, but we chose no, and that's okay. So just hold that thought. The other thing I'll mention with you guys is that, and I think this addresses what you asked earlier. The next item for me is to talk about the resignation, not to talk about that, but of your assistant superintendent and discussion of process to fill that. 2 things there as well. That could be internal. I don't know. That also could be because I've took the liberty of going ahead for time's sake and contacted all 5 of these individuals that I have packets of and found out from them if they would be interested in either role. And they are all interested in either role. So that's an option. They all have experience in very similar roles, not only as a superintendent, but as finance and human resource. So there's depth here in them to share with that. So have I covered what you think is in line with the agenda here?
I think so. Did you say we need to discuss the meeting time in closed session or no? The next candidate interview time?
Probably do, because some of that has to do with who's going to be able to make it and not make it.
Okay.
And it also has to do then with the interview times that we would schedule with specific candidates.
Okay.
So that's really appropriate there.
Okay.
The things to be discussed in close now will be for you to talk about the process. I have interview questions along with me as examples. We have protocols for that. And then the candidates' files themselves, and you would have discussion on who you believe are the right choices. I don't mind if you interview all 5. Long day, but you can. And that's if someone else internally is approached by Karen, you mentioned. There's other options here still open to this, but it's moving a direction too, it is. Does that cover, does
Yes.
anyone else have a
Any other
question about
questions?
anything else?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next discussion item, and that is the resignation of Assistant Superintendent and discussion of the process to fill that position and coverage of those responsibilities in the interim. We're sorry to be losing Karen Beverlin as Assistant Superintendent, and just wanted to discuss that process. So we talked a little bit about that with Tom, that we could consider a person that's one of the applicants for this position. And then coverage of those responsibilities in the interim. A couple of you had volunteered to meet with some of the administrative staff to go over kind of roles and responsibilities and make sure there's coverage in the office. And then we also talked about another person recommended having a document written up with those responsibilities. I'd like to discuss that now, people's opinions on how best to make sure that we have coverage and make sure that we're aware of duties and responsibilities and make sure those are all covered. So does anybody have any suggestions or want to comment on those ideas already?
Yeah, I sent an email earlier today, and I made sure it went out to the full board so everybody would be on the same page. I guess my concern is just that going forward, first of all, we're board. Our job is to govern. We shouldn't be in management and in the daily duties and operations of the school district. And I guess my concern is that, I first heard about this meeting through the email, and the first line was, "as you are aware," or something similar to that, and I was not aware because I'd never heard about such of a meeting. As one of the longest members of this board, serving for 2 terms, myself and Beth, having gone through a search process prior, I was not contacted or asked to be a part of any of this, so it was all a surprise to me, quite frankly. And I guess my concern is that, again, we shouldn't be in the daily operations of a school district. We're a school board and we govern. And so I'm concerned with board members going in and talking to our staff who are now leaving, which is disruptive enough, and having them, be the ones to carry forth the mission of the district. They can put this in writing, which I'm sure they're very more than capable, and they've probably already done that, quite honestly. And that should be presented to the board as a whole, only for information. There's nothing for us to be in the office doing on a daily basis as far as duties and responsibilities. Our focus should be on, at this point, unfortunately, is finding replacements for the staff that we had that was doing an excellent job already. And, so I have a problem. I have a problem with going in and making decisions on who should be at that meeting, who shouldn't be at that meeting, and just taking that information down. And so everything needs to be transparent. Everything should be written. It should be documented. I'm sure they've done that already. So I really don't understand, I guess, the outcome that's expected from this meeting. But to think that we're going to send board members to take notes and then carry a district forward based on that, I just don't think it's an efficient way to do things, honestly. So I think if we can just, have the staff put it in writing and then go forward. If board members have questions, let's get in the habit of putting those questions in writing, in an email, so that when the responses come back, you can share them with the full board. Again, transparency. And I think that continues to be lost, and it's going to continue to be a problem that plagues this board until we can learn better. And everything should be an email, and everything should be forwarded to everyone.
So maybe my suggestion would be a Wednesday night, and I think maybe from the administration staff, they could kind of give us kind of an overview Wednesday night at our meeting of where they think things are headed and going forward.
Dawn, how's that sound? That would be a transparent way, do you think? Well, everybody would be able to hear that.
I think that's what they're gonna have in their documents as far as, and we've heard from them every month, we hear from them every week in the daily updates. So I think to put them on display in front of a board and, challenge them to tell us, hey, what do you know and where are we going? I mean, we should all know that. We should all be up to speed on that information already. I just don't know what we're looking for here. This is, we're gonna have to pick up the pieces and carry on somehow. And I don't think everybody's fully confident in how that's gonna happen yet. So we're kind of going as we go, and that's unfortunate.
I think that one of the benefits of having a meeting would, just from a practical standpoint, there'd be able to be a give and take and questions right at the time in terms of, who does payroll, who does the benefits, who does all of this.
I mean, if you're expecting board members to be able to take that information and carry it on, I just think that is a critical mistake.
Well, I think they could also have the written document, but maybe to just have that conversation.
Yeah, I don't think that conversation goes anywhere. I just don't see the positive outcome from that. We have strained staff who've done an excellent job, who are on their way out. I think that to have them, at very least, I think, Heather, to speak with the district office, being a district office staff member, administrator, she would be able to have that conversation with them. We'll have written documents there. I just don't see the meeting itself. I just don't, I don't know what do you, when you say ask questions, there are people who actually do each of those duties. And I don't think that a board member is going to actually come in and be able to ask questions that are going to be pertinent to what needs to happen next. We just don't have that information. We're not supposed to. We're not charged with those duties. So I just don't see the value in it. I really don't, honestly. And I'm not trying to be difficult, but I just have a problem with it. And I think there's been micromanagement. I think there have been people in places they shouldn't be. And I think moving forward, we need to move away from that.
Karen? Oh, go ahead, Beth. No, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, from a procedural standpoint, it's Monday night. I'm not sure it could be added to the agenda, or if it would need to be, but because it's 48-hour rule. But I think too, what we heard from stakeholders that spoke very eloquently tonight again, is that they're looking for the board to work together. And to get the public confidence back, we need to do that, and we need to display that. And one way that it will build the trust with the board members is that we do communicate by email, and that we don't have one-on-one conversations. And so I know I've kind of had the siren song on this, but I think it'll go a long, long way if we do as much as we can by email, so that if they provide a document, we get the document. If I have a question of the administration, I send that, the administration replies all. So the board is on the same page with the same knowledge at the same time. And so I think it might be warranted for us not to have two board members meeting with the administrators. And I know that these guys are very, very dedicated. So even after their last day, the new interim that comes in, they'll be there to help them. They'll be a phone call away. And everything is, electronically documented, so they have access to everything as well. Just a thought.
No, that's fine, Cheryl. I saw benefits in both a written document and meeting with someone, because you can't, when you have a conversation with somebody, there's a give and take, and you can generally find out more information. And we usually take the information that the administration gives us, their needs and their wants, so we really need to hear it from them. And I like Cheryl's idea. Actually, I think that an email with specific questions, and they can tell us exactly what is needed, as long as we don't get in an email back and forth to, get into breaking the Open Meetings Act. And I'm not certain, but I'm assuming maybe that is why two board members were asked to meet or volunteered. I'm not sure how that went down, but that I was okay. It was, from both sides, if we're picking sides, so it seemed fair. But we really don't want to get into breaking the Open Meetings Act, and I think we had some recommendations from IASB and how to, get around to make sure that we get the information that we're actually looking for. And if everyone is okay with the email, I am fine with that, but I think we need to hear from everyone if they would like the email response or if they want board members to go in, or both.
If we ask the staff what they want to do.
Just talking to microphone. Sorry, Teresa.
Okay. This is not working well. I agree with the email so everyone gets the information at the same time. I think we need to start working together. So I don't really want to hear that two sides thing anymore. So I think that's the best way for the board to start working together. I think email's the best way because I think a lot of us are getting very frustrated. I know, you know, from conversations that we've had that we're just not getting the information as soon as everyone else. So I think as long as we all start getting the information at the same time, I think that's really going to help us build the trust even within ourselves.
Okay, any other comments? Sorry.
I agree with the email concept, and I do want to also suggest, I know there have been times when you send out an email and you're not getting a response, or you're waiting for a certain member to respond so that you can put out a statement. So it would be my suggestion that when you do send out an email like that, perhaps you can say, if you can please respond to me within 24 hours. At that point, I'll need to go ahead and put out a statement because we don't want the community waiting to hear what our plans are. And I understand it's difficult to put that out because you want to give every board member a chance to respond. So I think it would also be a good way to show that we're working together, that if there is an email sent, that we try to respond to her in a timely manner.
Okay. So does everybody agree then we will ask the administration to provide information on roles and responsibilities of the assistant superintendent that we need to look at to make sure those duties are covered if there's a time period when we don't have an assistant superintendent? Is that our focus? Okay. And then we'll have her send that document, and then we will respond with individual questions, and then she'll reply all so that we have the answers.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree, and I just want to make one comment to your comment, Abby. And I don't know if it was me that you were referring to, and not to be more divisive, but I just want to make sure we are transparent and we clear the air that there was a information regarding a meeting that went out, and I didn't see it till afterwards that the information that Mr. Leahy, the email that you were on, it stated that we've received information from everyone but one board member. And then there was another email string that said, well, I'm still waiting on one board member. Well, if that board member was me, it was because I had never been contacted. And so by the time I found out about the meeting, it had already been scheduled. And I think, Karen, maybe there was some misinformation, but you called me the day after you talked to everyone else and got their information, and then there were 2 communications that went out and said, I'm waiting on one. Well, you're going to be waiting for a long time if you never contact me.
Well, can I speak to that? I'm weighing in now. I'm weighing in here. I did not send an email about anything other than getting the surveys back from board members about not getting something. I did not send something out about one board member not responding. Not from here.
No, not from
okay,
you. You were
okay.
on the,
I'm sorry, I took that.
Chain.
Yeah. I will tell you that I did weigh in on the bit about the administrative group and board members. And now I'm going to speak to you as a former superintendent. You have balcony and dance floor. You heard that. You guys are in the balcony, policy. Your staff is on the dance floor, and they run it as far as a day-to-day basis. Right now, when you have, though, that's right, when you have some disruptive event occur, whether it be a death of somebody or a severance or whatever it is, competent people like yourselves will step up to fill the void, even when maybe you don't need to yet. So I'm only weighing in because I suggest to you that we get through this interim piece for the superintendent interviews first, and then decide what is next. Just a thought. Okay?
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. At this time, this concludes the information discussion item portion of the meeting, and we'll now move into closed session. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to closed session as stated in the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of the appointment, employment, compensation, and performance of specific employees of the public body.
Second.
It's been moved by Abby Humble, seconded by Teresa. Was that Teresa Holzhauser? Is there discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Flo,
Aye.
Bozeman,
Aye.
Disharum,
Aye.
Hauser,
Aye.
Humble,
Aye.
Reed, Salmon.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. We will now move into closed session.